of the board.
I have a question. It doesn't apply to the signage. It's just minor. I'm just curious. I assume it's been through approval process, but the ordinance that was passed, a couple of years ago against or precluding formulary businesses, I think was the term that was used.
Yes, sir. I can address that. So we do prohibit
Yeah, I'm curious.
formula businesses on Folly Beach. However, Avocet, which was a non-conforming formula business, has changed to Vacasa, and our ordinances allow existing non-conformities to be sold or transferred. And so this is a...
So Avocet is non-conforming as well.
Yeah, well, in the form that it was, Avocet changed to Wyndham. It was Wyndham when we passed our ordinance. We tend to use Avocet interchangeably out here. Avocet had technically already been sold to Wyndham, even though they were operating under the Avocet name. And so, yes, it was already non-conforming to our ordinances when we passed that law.
Okay.
And Aaron, in essence, this is grandfathered in, if you will, under the previous formulary
Yes, sir.
dictate. Okay. Are there any other comments or questions relative to approval of this? Having heard none, Heather, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Vandiver,
Yes.
Ms. Burkett,
Yes.
Mr. Kinter,
Yeah.
Mr. Fink.
Yes. Okay, that passes unanimously. The second item under new business is the accelerated review for new railings and rooftop deck at the Drop-In Deli on 32 Center Street. Could I have a motion to discuss accelerated review?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Is there someone from that particular company that's on board here that I can't see or hear?
Yes, sir. We have Maddie online. Hey, Maddie.
Okay, I'm sorry, Maddie. Now I see. I apologize. Okay, would you like to, for the record, if you'd introduce yourself and then explain what your, we have a very comprehensive package here of information and diagrams and everything. If you can kind of explain most of that to us, and then we'll let Alan Kinder pick it apart, ask questions.
Yeah, so I think is representing that one. First of all, thank you guys on this one, and we really appreciate that. So, having said, I'll dive right in. As you know, the drop-in has been in operation for a while, and like pretty much every restaurant's felt the impact of the COVID out in an effort to kind of combat that impact. Matt helped them design this rooftop deck, and the whole goal of those people are and so house now. And going forward, we're going to work with the start structural engineer, helping our great citizen people. It's also been making sure that we're not doing a substantial improvement to this building, and we're sure that we're below 50. And then the thing is, our occupant load will be under 50. So we won't need to have two means of egress. So we've been working to do that. One means of egress at the front. In doing that, we're going to rework the storefront system at the base a little bit to accommodate that alteration. So, thank you again, and thanks for your help. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Aaron, are there any code issues here involved whatsoever on this particular addition to the existing building?
So there are no zoning issues, but just to highlight, we got a little lag there and a little interference, so I just want to make sure that we heard correctly. Eric had identified a possible second egress as an issue, but I believe you guys are going to rework that to have it all at the front. Is that what
Right now, our goal is just draft the. Off.
She's breaking up, I can't.
Yeah, like that's breaking up and.
I'm getting about 20%.
Yeah,
Yeah, we are going to. Yeah,
If someone can hear, can they summarize?
yeah. We also, Maddie and I apologize for these technical issues. We also here, we missed probably 90% of what you said. If you guys will, just for 1 second, bear with us, we're gonna check the internet connection and see what's up. Just for notice, while the screen is streaming, you are being broadcast out on our live stream and recorded for posterity. So keep that in mind when we work on this internet connection issue, and I do apologize.
I have a question. I know we moved for accelerator. Am I breaking up?
no, we hear you.
Okay. I'd really like to take a good look at the plans. If there was some way we could come look at them somewhere. I know City Hall's in commotion, but I think this is a pretty big project. I'm not opposed to the idea at all, but I think there's some details and some stuff maybe, I know Alan, your input is good and right. I mean, everybody has good input. I don't know whether we'd have to have a formal meeting or if we could just look at them. I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable with my images, even though I blew them up to look at.
Yeah, it's tough to look at them.
Well, if you look at 1-102, that pretty much tells the whole story, especially from what you're going to see from the street. They're recessing the stair on the left side so that the door is pretty much in the same place. It still has the recessed aspect to the front wall entrance. You just go around it and go up the stair to the left. So in terms of what you'll see from the street, you're just going to see that railing and then the light trellis work that's holding the light. But I think it's going to, aside from there being people up there, it's going to be a relatively minor change to the facade of the building. It looks like maybe over that recess there's a new sign or something, or is that? No, it's pretty much the same.
How far back is it set from the top of the front? I was having trouble with just the small flat for me on the phone. And my printer's not working, so.
Oh, you're looking at it on your phone, Karen?
Yeah, my printer busted for some reason and, I'm having trouble.
Oh,
blowing it
yeah,
up,
okay, I
so.
thought you were looking at it on your computer.
Huh.
It's basically, if you can see the front elevation, the picture of the front of the building, it'll look like that, except for there'll be a railing up top, just over the drop-in part.
Is that over the kind of little, what I call the little front porch area, or is that over the top of the building itself?
Right along the front edge there. It's
Okay.
a continuation of the front parapet wall.
Okay. And it's, the occupancy is what, 60?
No, it would be less than.
Okay.
So I think the strange aspect of the noodle is that you're seeing it from up in the air like you were in a helicopter.
Yeah,
So that, unless you're upstairs in City Hall, you wouldn't be able to see, it from that direction.
Yeah.
You won't be able to see it in side elevation either, because if you were standing across the street, you wouldn't be able to see it because of the parapet wall of the planet. Because that railing that runs down the side in between the drop-in and the planet
Yeah,
is gonna be, because it's just over the drop-in.
yeah, I know, yeah, and I mean, I love the idea of the rooftop thing, but I guess Jack and Cups and Drop-In are okay with it.
You mean Planet Follywood and Jack of Cups?
What I say, yes.
Yeah.
I just said Drop-In, yes, you know what I meant.
Karen, I found that the diagram 1-104 that Alan alluded to, if you were looking at it down from.
I did see that.
That I think
Yeah.
gave me the best perspective of what it looks like in total. And that was my only perspective, that over an existing comparison that I was able to use as a good judge.
I mean, I'm fine with it, honestly.
Are the colors represented in the illustrations and the photographs going to be that essentially the paint schedule?
Aaron, this is not final approval, right? It is.
Generally, we have not completed 100% nail that.
Can you say that again?
Generally, yes, those will be the colors, but we have not 100% nailed that in client just yet. But that is something that we can make work on with him and, present to you. Okay.
We can do all that. We can
So
do
they
that.
have to come back with another, that includes colors and materials and everything else?
Yeah, they'll have to.
But the railing, the metal guard system is that, and the string lights on the Galvy metal poles, those are solidified.
Yes.
So I apologize. Could you, on the last page, I-102, which one of these is not final?
With that,
I'm just asking for clarity for the notes, which one of these samples here is not final? It sounds like the string lights and the railing were final.
Yeah, and just the color that they choose to paint the T111, or they are proposing to paint, and then the color of the sun sails. Those are the two options that have not been finalized.
Okay, thank you.
If I could add then, I would like to propose that, Maddie, that we have a motion that asks you to come back before we do a final approval, with perhaps your color selections, or allow us an opportunity to look at what the final product will look like, before we march off with something that potentially we might have disagreement on at a later time. Is that, Aaron, is that too unreasonable a request, or?
So it is at the board's discretion, so we can count that.
can't hear you, Aaron.
So the board has the discretion to approve partially or fully. Mr. Fink is making a motion that you guys, I believe I understand, Mr. Fink, that your motion would be for partial approval with the final color palette and material palette. to be-
Yeah, that's correct. I have no structural issues. I have no issue with the fact of a rooftop bar. What I would like to have is one more opportunity to address the color schemes and if there's any material change or anything else before you go to actual construction or do final approval. Is that acceptable to you, Maddie, or is that too hard?
No, that's something.
That means you can't start though, that seems punitive. Do you want to start the project?
Well, before we discuss that motion, Mr. Fink made the motion, can we get a second? And that would be on the motion to partially approve with final approval coming at a later date for the colors and materials.
I think that's what we usually do, although I couldn't hear you very well. Approved with contingency of returning?
Yeah, we have a motion on the floor for partial approval, requiring the project to come back for final approval of the materials and the colors. And we just need a second.
Second.
Can I ask a question?
Now that we have a motion and a second, it's open for discussion on the motion to partially approve.
Wouldn't they have to come back for the final approval on colors and everything, but be able to start work if we approve the preliminary concept?
No.
No, okay.
So the item on the agenda is an accelerated review, which is normally conducted in one step. We have a motion on the floor for partial approval, which would require a second review for the colors and the materials.
So that's like an intermediate, motion, so we're no longer on the accelerated review one, is that correct?
She will have accelerated review, but it will be a partial approval. You guys have the ability to partially approve projects.
Oh, okay.
It would be serving the same purpose as the conceptual preliminary final.
It does not preclude them from beginning the project, though, correct?
Well, we don't issue permits until they have final approval.
I can't hear you. I can hear Skip, but not Aaron.
We will not issue a permit until there is final approval. So a partial approval, we would not issue a permit to start. However, we could work on a special meeting if the delay in a month was too long.
Well,
So what we typically do is just, what we've always done is give the approval and afterwards come back for colors and.
Yeah. That's what I thought,
In
yeah.
this case, the color. Color are the two things that we, that are up in the air.
And I don't want to hold them up from construction. I know everybody that I know out here that's in that business
And I-
is tough times.
and that,
There's no reason, we're not gonna change anything, it's so simple,
that's right.
there's nothing
No, it is simple.
to discuss.
I would like to be able to let them start construction and do what they need to do, and then just have,
Okay.
we could have,
I got
this
it.
beforehand, a couple will sign off on the colors.
Okay, let me,
Basically come back for colors.
if I can, let me withdraw the motion as stated, because I do not want to hold up issuing of permits and the ability for them to move forward with the construction and everything else. I would request, Maddie, that out of deference to our concern, at least over the opportunity to discuss a variance that you may have in color schemes or whatever it is, just so that we're not taken by surprise by something that turns out to be out of character or whatever. Is that a reasonable approach? Aaron, can we do that so that they can move forward?
Yes, sir, or we could structure the motion to specifically allow them to go ahead.
Well, then let's do that. I mean, so I need to amend the motion that says that they can, they can move ahead with drawing permits, beginning their construction, doing whatever, but that before final inspection or whatever, we would have an opportunity through either another interim meeting or the next meeting, if Maddie could bring us, here's the color schemes that we're entertaining, just so that we can not be surprised or held accountable for some egregious thing that none of us want to see, but not that I can see that happening anyway, but does that make sense?
Okay. So now we'll call the roll on the motion to allow them to proceed, but coming back to final approval of the colors. And this is on the motion.
Mr. Kinter,
Yes?
Ms. Burkett,
Yes,
Mr. Vandiver,
Yes.
Mr. Fink.
Yes.
Thank you. So now we're back at the main motion, which would be accelerated review, partial approval to proceed with final approval of the colors at another meeting. And thank you guys for helping us work through these issues.
All right, Ms. Burkett,
Yes.
Mr. Vandiver,
Yes.
Mr. Kinter,
Yes.
Mr. Fink.
Yes.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you, Maddie, and I apologize for any confusion I may have inadvertently injected into the discussion. It's based out of my total ignorance. Okay, do we have a requirement for anyone other than the board members to remain either on the call or on the line?
No, sir.
If you're not currently a serving board member, you are free to drop off if you desire. Our third item on the agenda, if you will, under new business, is the election of new officers for the Design Review Board of a chair and a vice chair. We can open that. Can I have a motion to entertain that discussion?
I make a motion to add it to discussion. Oh, whatever the motion is supposed to be.
How about, if you guys want to proceed straight to the nominations, we can just open nominations.
Okay, and Aaron, I'll let you, you're the duty expert on,
So we have two seats open for officers, and I'd like to first ask for nominations for chairman.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to nominate Skip, since he's been our de facto chairman now forever, and doing a great job.
That sounds good. Aaron, I can't hear you at all. I can,
Could you hear me?
I heard you, Miss Burkett. I can hear you, Mr. Kinter. Can you hear me?
oh, I can hear you now. I can hear you close, when you're close to the microphone.
Okay, so I understood your nomination also to be for Mr. Fink?
I'm sorry?
Were you seconding the nomination of Mr. Fink as chairman?
Yeah, that's fine.
All
A
right.
second, we need a second.
Well, no, I think we've got that covered. Are there any other nominations for chairman? Okay, so Heather, would you please, well, if the candidate accepts, will you please call the roll for the nomination of Mr. Fink as chairman?
Mr. Vandiver,
Yes.
Ms. Burkett,
Yes.
Mr. Kinter,
Yes.
Mr. Fink.
I think I abstain from voting, don't I? Just you can't vote for yourself?
Look at yourself.
I think you
Sure
can.
can.
I think you can.
Okay, sure, I
Look
accept.
at yourself.
So next up, we have nominations for vice chairman.
Okay, I have two things to say. Do we need a motion?
Well, right now, we're just taking nominations, so if you have anyone you'd like to nominate,
Okay, I think that Alan's done it a few times. I don't want to do it. I think Joe said he'd be willing to do it.
Okay, let's nominate Joe then.
Okay.
Go ahead,
That's
Karen.
what we're doing. So, you're nominated, Joe.
Second.
okay, we've got a nomination for Mr. Vandiver. Are there any other nominations?
I feel an awful lot like everybody stepped backward in the line.
Yeah.
The new member.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's our nomination. We can call the roll, please.
Ms. Burkett,
Yes.
Mr. Kinter,
Yes.
Mr. Fink,
Yes,
Mr. Vandiver.
I'll go with a yes.
that's called, Joe, that's called last man standing.
All jokes aside, thank you both for being willing to serve.
Okay.
There is an extra layer even on top of your volunteer service to being chairman and running meetings, and so I appreciate it.
If there's no other discussion for the election item under new business, then we can move to the 7th item on the agenda, which any staff comments, Aaron?
No, sir.
No staff comments? Okay, I don't assume there's any commission comments, are there?
I have a comment. I think, Aaron, are you gonna leave, Aaron? Or are you gonna keep doing the DRB one? Aren't you moving to a new job there? Or is that secret still?
Well, I'm not sure it's ever been secret. I shy away from that word in public service. But I am currently acting administrator, and if I am named permanently to be the administrator, we currently have advertised a new position for zoning administrator and land use planner, kind of an environmentally focused planner for the city. And so if I'm named administrator, that person will probably will be coming online to take over the boards and commissions with Heather's assistance. The earliest that person will be hired is in November, and that's the earliest. I imagine that after they come on the first few months, at least, I'll be there. We don't know the system for passing off the duties yet, but I'll be at the meetings in some capacity probably for the next 6 months or so. But gradually, that person will become and replace me.
If I can ask a rhetorical question here, has Ms. Wetmore completely resigned? I mean, I know she's running for office. She has not been elected to office yet. If she were not, does she by default have an opportunity to remain as a city employee, or has that tie been severed altogether regardless of the election?
She's currently no longer employed as a regular employee.
Okay, thank you.
Well, congratulations, then, unless you don't want to do it, and then condolences if you want.
I think we get approval rights.
I think, Alan, you ought to step up and do it, you know? I mean, the least you could do is fill that billet.
Yes.
Okay.
But if anyone knows any planners or has access to planner networks, I've got a job description on the website. We'd love to get it out in front of as many people as possible.
When would that selection be made, Aaron? When would they determine that the nominations or the applications process is closed, and now the decision be made, I assume, by the council?
So our first round of applications will close out next week. We've got probably 12 or so right now. We haven't really substantively reviewed them to see how deep that pool is, but if there are acceptable resumes submitted in that first round, we're going to try to do the interviews in the next 3 weeks, and then let the mayor has final say, and so he'll do a round, and so that would put us probably at the end of November making some sort of announcement.
Are the interviews conducted by the entire city council?
No, sir. It's a staff level interview followed up by an interview with the mayor. So because of our form of government, the mayor is the hirer and firer who makes all personnel decisions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other general comments from members of the board before we move on to the non-existing citizen comments, since there's no citizens that I'm aware of? It is a very handsomely empty room.
Someone called in. There's a number 11.
Yeah, but I do believe we have some folks in the public who dialed in to listen.
Okay. Would number 11 like to make any comments?
Hi, everyone. Very nice job. This is Adam Barker. Appreciate what you do, and I have no comments.
Okay,
Hey, Adam, nice to know you're number 11. Would you please put that number on the side of your car so that we can recognize you in traffic?
racing number.
Right, a lucky number.
There you go.
16 now.
I think we moved for, it's time to,
I have a quick question. This is the first time I've had any technical difficulty at all with the Zoom meeting process. Did we change something?
So we're having a little bit of
I'm
trouble.
not having any trouble now.
We're having a little bit of trouble with
I was
our,
hearing Garrett, and then Kip was like 6 to 10 times louder. I've been turning the volume up and down on my computer to compensate, but I think there's this kind of unequal mixing inside that, this microphone.
Agreed, the sound is,
Yeah.
not very evenly distributed, but in addition, I've been unable to activate my own camera, although all the software says my camera's operating, and I don't see, Karen, your image was on the screen earlier, it no longer is, and
Oh,
Alan's.
really? Yeah, because I can still see myself,
Right,
unfortunately.
I can't see.
I can't take Karen either, and I don't own a camera. I mean, my monitor that had a camera in it died.
Well, Joe, you were on the initial screen. I mean, we saw you and Karen both on the screen, and then, like you said, once the audio cleared up, the pictures went away. So I don't know what happened there.
So you were able to see me still?
We certainly were, but now we're seeing nobody. We're seeing no pictures except ourselves here.
so we're still working through some issues with the way,
It doesn't sound like it's a personal problem of my own.
It's hard to.
Sorry, Heather, I didn't mean to talk over you there.
So, Heather knows a little bit more about the setup than I do, and she can tell you some of our issues.
so we're still working through some issues with the microphones and the way that they connect to Jitsi, so I'll let IT know what we worked with tonight. But hopefully over the next couple of meetings, you should see these issues start to go away. But bear with us, we're trying. As for the camera issues, that's a new one to us, so I'll figure that out and get back to you guys before the next meeting.
And
Well, you sounded very clear and crisp
Yeah.
and normal volume on that, what you just said.
It's just because I talk really loud.
And just so you guys know, on the subject of virtual Jitsi meetings, our emergency ordinance was renewed until December 14th. So at least our next 2 meetings will continue to offer the virtual option and will be closed to the public for in-person comment. So
For whatever it's worth, the room here is well set up for social distancing. I would encourage you to try to attend if you could in person, because it really was helpful to be able to review the documents that Aaron provided for us in person rather than trying to print them out at home or whatever. So keep that in mind if you're so inclined. And perhaps we can, it'll be more than easy to do, because the meeting is essentially closed. Are there any other comments from the board members? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, give me 2 minutes and you guys are off.
yeah,
All right, thank you.